Uh-huh. I just feel like I've been around the block, ripping up fantasy stock, working around the clock. Look at the view from the top. Researching rookies a lot? No, I just be listening to pods, yeah. One in particular, I'm just a messenger, let me just pass on the rock. Browning, brunning, pruning, pronouncing ain't what he's doing. What he's doing is not losing, but infusing you with new things. And there's Dennis the Bennett, yeah. The man is a menace, yeah. Building a dynasty, some of the finest things. Promise you, you won't regret it. Sly as a fox, cultured in pop. Give him his props. Here is a thought, here is a box. And you cannot compare them at all, so don't even try. Careful with the news, but when you use a take, I take up Tony Fire. I mean Dyer, because anyone else is a huge mistake. Whoa, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Yeah. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Hey, fantasy round table, fantasy round table. Woo. Fantasy round table, come take a look at the crown, baby. Go.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Fantasy Football Roundtable Podcast. It is Thursday, week 16 of the NFL season starts tonight in Seattle. Dennis, late breaking. The Rams 11-3 at the 11-3 Seahawks. Devontae Adams has been declared inactive. We thought he probably wouldn't play, but who's going to pick up the slack for him?
So the easy guess is Colby Parkinson, based on how Parkinson has been playing. But Kanata Mumfield is his direct backup. And we've seen over several seasons, when necessary, Tutu Atwell steps up and just produces numbers. But it's really wild because when you take someone like Atwell, who's been there the longest, he's been there since, I think, 21, and he's a gadget guy, and they'll use him on some different things in special teams. He's never been able to take his 5'5" frame and carve out a consistent role. But when you're faced with a situation like they have tonight, we see Atwell often come in with 4 or 5 catches for 75 yards and a touchdown. Whittington is a guy that they've been high. I don't know if I'd say they've been high on. They've liked. He's essentially the Ben Skoranek replacement. I would expect them to maybe lean a little more on the running game if they can with Corum and Kyron Williams. Probably a 20-target game for Puka Nacua. And then they're just going to see, of those other options, Parkinson, Davis Allen, Tutu Atwell, Kanata Mumfield, Jordan Whittington, which one is going to be able to make a play? They're all – I'm probably most comfortable with Parkinson, but they're all kind of crapshoots.
Meanwhile, for Seattle, whether it's going back to his time in Minnesota or here with Seattle, playing the Rams has been a house of horrors for Sam Darnold. They have a chance to move into first place in the division and first place in the NFC with a win. It feels very much like where he was with the Vikings against the Lions last year. Can Sam Darnold get over the hump?
I want to say yes, but it just doesn't feel like this Rams team has consistent enough firepower. Their running game often gets ineffective and doesn't provide balance. JSN is the show. We're seeing a little bit from Rashid Shaheed as he spends more time there, but he hasn't put up a monster game yet. Cooper Kupp is he's your tight end guy now, 4 for 40. You're hoping he can get in the end zone is what you're getting out of Kupp. A.J. Barner, who's a guy that I've had some hopes for, could produce at the tight end position, has not developed any consistency. I do like Barner as a tight end 2 stash with some potential upside going forward. But they also drafted Elijah Arroyo, whom they like, who's a fairly athletic tight end that could put the kibosh on any Barner upside. I don't think Darnold is able to will the team to victory. I think he's would I be surprised if he had 250 yards and 2 touchdowns? No, I think that would be considered a good performance. I don't know that as a team they have what it takes to get past the Rams. I mean, it's 2 good defenses as well. And even without Adams, I think Stafford and Nakua in the running game give the Rams an edge.
Yeah, I'm taking the Rams here.
Wow.
Next up, we have a pair of Saturday games. The first, the 9-5 Philadelphia Eagles at the 4-10 Washington Commanders. Kind of a low-key story last week. Jalen Hurts got banged up a little bit in that win. They were up so big, it didn't really matter. They took him out. Any concerns going into the Saturday game?
Not really. Yeah, he wasn't on the injury report. The concerns you have about Jalen Hurts are the same concerns you've had all season and pretty much his whole career. He's not a high volume passer. And while he can be efficient from a fantasy perspective, you rely on his run game. And this year, the run game hasn't been there. So, and maybe that's a function of, hey, we've got Saquon Barkley now, and that's a natural progression. But it almost feels like Dallas Goedert is the guy you want to roster. Now, that being said, I'm certainly not sitting A.J. Brown if I roster A.J. Brown, and probably not Devonta Smith either. But I'm also not counting on them to be, top 6 production-wise this week.
Meanwhile, the Commanders officially decided, as we mentioned earlier this week, to shut down Jaden Daniels. But Bill Krosky-Merritt had a real good game in Week 15. It looks like Chris Rodriguez is off the injury report. So do you dare trust Krosky-Merritt in Week 16?
I don't. The Eagles are top 3rd in rush yards allowed and fantasy points in allowed to running backs. And so they, and by top 3rd, I mean in how much the less they give up. They're, I guess, bottom 3rd in what they allow. I'm phrasing it bad. I guess I'm still shook up from the computer troubles I was having as we logged on. The point I'm trying to make is they don't give up a ton of production to running backs. And Rodriguez and Bill are both just Jags, hashtag 2 to 3 year window guys. And I'm not sure either one of them has what it takes to really be the guy to stand in that window alone for 2 to 3 seasons. So, they're both very, very low end flexes to me.
I am taking the Eagles.
As am I.
The other Saturday game, much better, the 9-4-1 Green Bay Packers at the 10-4 Chicago Bears. Packers won their first matchup just a couple weeks ago. Christian Watson left Sunday's game with a shoulder injury. He's officially listed as questionable. Has a lot of upside, had been clicking with Jordan Love. What are you doing with Watson?
I'm playing him. He's honestly, if he's healthy, he's the guy I want in that passing game. He's the alpha prototype with blazing speed, and he may not get you 8 or 10 receptions like some of these other alphas. He's the guy that's going to get you, he can produce 6 for 75 in a touchdown, or he can produce 3 for 90 in a touchdown. There's some risk that comes with that, but I have a situation where I am actually starting Christian Watson over Ashton Genty.
I mean, it can't hurt. Meanwhile, for Chicago, Roma Dunze and Luther Burden have now been ruled out. Is this wheels up for DJ Moore finally?
Gotta be. I mean, he's 2 years into his extension, has $35 million dead cap if they want to get rid of him before next season. So you don't see that happening. And while Odunze is having a better year than last year, at least on a per game basis, I don't know that I'd call it really a breakout. Luther Burden, he's outproduced Olamide Zaccheaus and should probably break I'd probably feel better if he was playing this week. But you want those rookie wide receivers to hit that 500-yard receiving mark. Yeah. And Burden's still got 148 yards or something like that to go. So you'd like to see him get out there. Zacchaeus is like your ideal number 4, though. He's somebody that you can slide in. I mean, the Rams would love to have Olamide Zacchaeus right now to move into their lineup.
I could probably play more 2 tight end with Kmet and Loveland. So
yeah,
I'm actually taking Chicago at home. I had them before. The injuries made me nervous, but I'm sticking with it.
I'm taking the Packers.
Buffalo Bills 10-4 at the 3-11 Cleveland Browns. Dennis, how are we feeling about the Bills pass catchers?
If there was a way to make a head shake audible, there's Khalil Shakir is the one you want, but you're hoping for wide receiver 3 upside. Maybe he breaks out, has a high volume receiving game. Maybe he is able to get in the end zone. Dalton Kincaid is their preferred tight end passing option, but he's been in and out of the lineup. And Dawson Knox, we talked about it a couple days ago. He was Michael Mayer.
He would be my
career was cool.
He would be my YOLO tight end pick if I didn't have any good options and I was looking for a ceiling, because your ceiling is he stays hot and gets a couple of red zone looks. Meanwhile, whatever the opposite of a heater is what the Cleveland offense has been on. It is a playoff week. I still like Harold Fannin, but I feel like Shadur's been all over the map, and Buffalo maybe not a great matchup for him. They've really bottled up Quinshon Judkins the last few weeks. Jerry Jeudy looks like he belongs in the CFL. Is there a Brown you feel confident playing for the playoffs?
Honestly, I'm still playing Harold Fannin. I feel like there's a connection between him and Shadur. Right now, while he's trying to figure it out, Shadur's like, F it, Fannin down there somewhere. The other guy he does that with is Isaiah Bond. The downside is that it is actually like one play per game with Isaiah Bond. Like he's gonna probably get 3 targets. He's gonna catch 1 pass for 53 yards, and that's all you're gonna get out of Isaiah Bond. I don't know. Dylan Sampson is out. Maybe Judkins gets a little bit more run in the passing game. The Browns' offensive line isn't playing well. They're beat up. Shadur, while getting better at getting rid of the ball, still holds the ball too long. I'm not optimistic, but I do like Fannin to get volume.
I am taking the Bills.
So am I.
The 10-4 Los Angeles Chargers at the 6-7-1 Dallas Cowboys. Pretty favorable matchup, even with a banged-up offensive line. Do we like Justin Herbert as a playoff start here?
I love Justin Herbert as a playoff start. He's big arm, mobile. He's a lot of the things you want out of your quarterback. The Cowboys give up the most fantasy points to quarterbacks. Well, Justin Herbert is a quarterback. They've got a bunch of receiving options with Oronde Gadsden, Keenan Allen, Ladd McConkey, Trey Harris, Quentin Johnston. They've got Omari and Hampton back now pairing with Kamani Vidal. It's an opposite week now, so Vidal should have a good week this week. Dallas also gives up the 5th most rushing yards to quarterbacks, and I think that bodes well for Herbert. After those trades and stuff, Dallas's defense has improved a little bit. They get a little more pressure on the quarterback, but I do think that Herbert, with his mobility, can make some stuff happen.
Meanwhile, for Dallas, George Pickens started hot and was their preferred receiver, it seemed like, for a while. But the last couple of weeks, he's had less than 10 points, which is less than ideal in this stretch of the season. Can he turn it around this week?
Well, they're going against the number 3 pass defense. He also has CD Lamb, target hog to contend with. And then Ryan Flournoy making shit happen whenever his number is called. And then tight end, what is he, tight end 1 or 2 with Jake Ferguson? So yeah, it's one of those games where Dallas is going to have to click on all cylinders on offense for Pickens, Lamb, Williams, and Ferguson all to be productive. But the Chargers give up the fewest fantasy points to wide receivers. So while if I roster Pickens, I'm probably starting him because I don't really have a lot of better options. I'm not holding out a ton of hope he's going to be the most productive of my wide receivers or flex plays.
I am taking the Chargers in this one.
So am I.
The 6-8 Kansas City Chiefs at the 2-12 Tennessee Titans. It's Gardner Minshew time. What are you expecting?
I mean, it's a great team to have to play Gardner Minshew against. So, we know what Minshew is. He's a little bit erratic, chaotic. I'd put his Minshew's ceiling at a low-end quarterback too. I like his ability more than Rivers, but now with Rashee Rice trending towards being out and not having a running game, Phillip Rivers clearly has much better weapons. But Minshew's not afraid to chuck the ball. He's going to go out there. He's going to put his Georgetown underneath those pads and his crop tops, and he's going to be out there super mullet chucking it down the field, trying to get everything he can.
That's true. Back-to-back good weeks for Tony Pollard. He's jumped from running back 32 to running back 23 on the season. Can he keep it going against Kansas City?
Yeah, Kansas City's got a decent defense. Pollard needs 153 yards to get to 1,000 yards, and I think that's a big milestone he's aiming for. He's RB23 on the year, which isn't too bad when you consider he's on the 31st ranked offense. Yeah. So I think Pollard is, he gets the lion's share of the touches over Tyjae Spears. They don't have much in the way of a receiving game. Gunnar Helm is coming on. You get flashes from DK and A.O. Minor and Chigo Okonkwo. I like Pollard he's really the show there.
I'm taking the Chiefs.
Oh my.
Ugly game. Another ugly game, the 4-10 Cincinnati Bengals at the 6-8 Miami Dolphins. Joe Burrow has not looked great on the field the last 2 weeks, and he has not looked great in his press conferences between games. They said he's going to continue to start. His lust for the game does not appear to be there. You'd like to play him in the fantasy playoffs, but do you have any concerns?
No, I don't have concerns. Miami is a great team to play against. To be able to kind of get your shit together. It'd be nice if Higgins is able to get back out there so he's got something besides Jamar Chase. Mitchell Tinsley and Andre Yosevich and Mike Gesicki probably aren't providing quite the arsenal of weapons I think Burrow signed himself up for. But he's one of the best quarterbacks in the league. He's going against a beatable Miami team. They want to get as much momentum as they can. And so I think they see this as an opportunity to sort of stem the tide, even if it doesn't mean they're going to be able to get back in the playoff race. They do want to get back in the win column.
Meanwhile, Miami, they benched Tua. They skipped over Zach Wilson, went right to Quinn Ewers. What are you hoping to see?
I don't know that I'm hoping to see anything. I mean, he was the last quarterback picked in the draft. It's wild to think that for all the performance issues he seemed to have at Texas, and everybody was like, you got to start Arch Manning. And then Arch Manning kind of came in this year and they're like, oh, that's why they started Quinn Ewers. Do I think Ewers can develop into a serviceable NFL quarterback? Yeah. Coming in, cleaning up this mess, is that the way to go? I don't know, but when you get your shot, you got to take it. So, he's got Darren Waller, he's got Jalen Waddle, and he's got Devon Achane. Get the ball to those guys. See if they can make something happen. Miami's got a lot of holes to fill in the offseason. I think the watch is on. We for a few weeks after Chris Greer was fired, we were like, well, looks like they're fighting like hell now. They're going to save McDaniel's job. Now the last couple of weeks is like, well, I don't know if they know who they're fighting. They may be taking swings out there, but I don't know if they know what they're aiming at. I like Quinn Ewers. He's got a connection to Ohio State. I'd like to see him have some level of success. But I'm picking the Bengals.
I'm taking the Dolphins. We'll see how it goes for me. The 3-11 New York Jets at the 4-10 New Orleans Saints were actually favored in this game. Brady Cook starting again for the Jets. So given that, we had some enthusiasm for Adonai Mitchell and John Mechie, but do you still have that with Brady Cook?
No. It's the team, the Jets are struggling, and I don't know that I typically subscribe to the one and done approach when it comes to coaches. If it happens to Aaron Glenn, I'm not going to say I'm terribly surprised. I would like to maybe see him see him get a shot with a little bit better team, add some pieces, maybe a actual quarterback, and see what they can do. Can they start to build something? I think if you're putting Brady Cook into your lineup here in the playoffs and the semifinals, you're probably jockeying for the best draft position you can get.
Yeah, I'm not going to be playing Cook, but I am playing Tyler Shook in a league. We mentioned he's been kind of on a heater. They are favored at home against a team that just gave up 48 points last week and fired their defensive coordinator. I like Shook this week. How do you feel?
He's working hard. He's got a couple guys he's getting the ball to. Their running game's looking like a little bit of a mess this week. Looks like it's going to be Audric Estime and who's the other
Alvin
guy?
Kamara.
Is Kamara going to be back?
It looked like he was going to be back. Yeah.
So
Devin Neal is out.
Neal is out. No, there's somebody else there. I forget who it is, but they because I thought it was weird that they were on Sirius XM Fantasy today. They were talking about the Saints a little bit and about how Audric Estime was going to be the receiving back and this other cat was going to be the
Kamara's listed as questionable. Devin Neal got placed on IR, so his season is done there. And unfortunately for Shook, Devon Vele is out, which was a bummer to me. But I still, Chris Olave and Juwan Johnson to the moon. I know you won't be sad about that.
Evan Hull is who the other guy was. And
that's why
that seemed to me like Estime and Hull were miscast because Hull isn't a real big guy. Estime is a pretty big guy, and it felt to me like Estime would be more
Estime also, unless he had a hand transplant, can't catch for shit. So
right. That's what I thought when I was hearing it. I was like, that don't seem to make sense to me. But if Kamara's back, that's obviously a good thing.
Maybe that's why we're not coaching the teams. I am taking the Saints.
So am I.
6-8 Minnesota Vikings at the 2-12 New York Giants. Let me read you some scores here, Dennis. 8.8, 2.4, 3.1, 4.2. Those are the PBR scores the last four games for Justin Jefferson. And even if you added all those points up, that probably still wouldn't be what you were hoping to see from Justin Jefferson in one game. Even though McCarthy has played better the last 2 weeks, that has not done anything for Jefferson. it is a big week in fantasy. It's hard to imagine you drafted him and wouldn't want to put him in your lineup, but how are you feeling about Jefferson?
Curse you, JJ McCarthy. Now, McCarthy knows the mission. He's just piss poor at executing it. He's given Jefferson targets for the most part. Just so many of them are not catchable. I wish I don't know that I would have the guts to bench Jefferson, especially because McCarthy is picking up some momentum, and so you kind of got to feel like McCarthy and O'Connell are going to be like, we really got to get the ball to this guy who's like top 1, 2, 3 wide receiver in the league. So let's make sure we get that shit fixed. And the last thing you want to do is, put somebody in over him and have him riding your bench when he puts up 28 points. No, I think I've got Jefferson on one team in the playoffs right now, and I was tempted to maybe bench him in part because I have a really stacked wide receiver room with Marvin Harrison likely out and Drake London out. Jefferson's definitely going to be in the lineup alongside of CD Lamb there. I was bragging. That's why I'm name dropping like that.
I mean, you might get London because he returned to practice, but we'll see. The real great receiver in this game is actually Wan'Dale Robinson, who is quietly wide receiver 9 on the season. How are we feeling about Wan'Dale?
So right now for me, when I think about Wan'Dale, I'm trying to project, like on my dynasty teams, what's it look like next year when Neighbors gets back? Now, early in the year, they were coexisting pretty well. I think Russell was starting at QB then. And but we've since had Theo Johnson come on, given another option. Cam Scattaboo in the running back room started to play really well before he got injured. So the possibility that Wan'Dale returns back to his 8 yards per catch routine that he had before this season could be kind of high if Neighbors is fully healthy and becomes that. But also maybe the Giants are like, hey, we've got something with this guy. We don't have to just play him close to the line of scrimmage. I like Wan'Dale. To me, the wild card is Darius Slayton because he ends up getting enough opportunity share, but they're low quality opportunities. They're deep shots and they're hard to convert. When he does convert a couple, it's great, but so often he's got 5 targets and 1 catch for 22 yards.
I'm taking the Vikings in this one.
So am I.
The 7-7 Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the 7-7 Carolina Panthers, the powerhouse matchup of the NFC South. Dennis, Emeka Egbuka started red hot, but in his last 5 games, he only has 1 with 10 or more points. Evans is back, Godwin's back. The Buccaneers offense in a bit of a funk. How are we feeling about Egbuka?
Well, and Bucky's back, and White's playing pretty well, and now we're in a situation where there are a lot of mouths to feed. Jalen McMillan is back, and they're talking, we need to get him more opportunities. So now all of a sudden you went from having, a couple options to a whole fistful of options there for Baker. I think Evans is going to get his first and foremost. I like Egbuka. He's wide receiver 14 on the year, but I probably think he's going to be more in the mid to high wide receiver 3 level with upside. And by upside, he could be the wide receiver 1 any given week, but I'm probably leaning more towards high end 3, low end 2 for him moving forward.
Meanwhile, Ted McMillan, having a pretty good season, had his worst game of the year last week. We expect a bounce back this week.
I mean, he's wide receiver 16 on the year. With Tampa's defense, they're pretty good against wide receivers and giving up fantasy points. I'd probably put 16 as his ceiling. So, if I get a low-end wide receiver 2 week out of him, I'm going to be satisfied with it.
I'm taking the Buccaneers, but I don't feel great about it.
Yeah, I sat here trying to figure out, could I convince myself to take the Panthers, and I just can't quite get there.
The 10-4 Jacksonville Jaguars at the 12-2 Denver Broncos. Dennis, Trevor Lawrence has been riding high, 5 touchdown passes a week ago, but this Denver defense pretty serious at home. Are you trusting Trevor Lawrence in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think him and Liam Cohen are really starting to click in how they perceive what Trevor can do. I think Cohen is starting to really lean into what Trevor's strengths are. They just signed Jacoby Myers to a 3-year extension, so they like him. Brian Thomas is coming on and playing better. Brenton Strange, I've got a league right now where, well, I'll save this for later because we're going to talk about the other guy down the street a little bit. Travis Etienne is coming on, so they've got a lot of weapons getting a lot of things done, and least of not which is Trevor Lawrence. And Lawrence is very much in the vein of Justin Herbert. He's big, he's mobile, he can run the ball, he's got a good arm. And Liam Cohen seems to be dialing in and how to make the offense work for him.
If it's one QB, I'm not playing him because Jordan Love, even after starting pretty well, ended up as QB 19 last week. And I know Trevor Lawrence looks great sitting there at QB 7 right now, but in Denver, I would not trust him top 12. Super flex, I'm still playing him mid to low end QB 2, but I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah, it's tough to play to lean into a quarterback against the Broncos.
Yeah.
But
it's also tough to lean into a running back against the Jacksonville Jaguars. RJ Harvey has been better the last couple of weeks, but he banged up his ribs, which gives me pause. And the Jaguars are actually number 1 against running backs. So maybe not a great week to roll RJ Harvey.
Well, and I think what makes it even nodder of a great week was Sean Payton coming out and talking about how they need to get Jaleel McLaughlin more touches.
Fucking Sean Payton.
It's tough, man. Just when you think Harvey is like, what's a guy got to do to earn volume? Like, really? I mean,
I'm glad I'm going to be in the middle of the ocean with a drink package then to watch this game.
No, I like RJ Harvey. He's good in the passing game, in the receiving part of it. I don't know if he's great in the blocking game because he's not a big fella. Willing.
Neither is Jaleel McLaughlin.
Yeah.
Neither is Tyler Beatty. So I think he is still the biggest back they have currently. Not saying a lot.
So I don't know, man. I like RJ Harvey, and if he's probably flex worthy, and you're just going to hope that when Sean Payton puts Jaleel McLaughlin in there to get him more touches after the 3 and out, Payton goes, yeah, that might not have been a great idea.
Yeah. I'm still taking the Broncos.
So am I.
Next up, the 5-9 Atlanta Falcons at the 3-9 Arizona Cardinals. What a banger of a game. Kyle Pitts has been money the last 3 weeks with Kirk Cousins. Is he just an auto start the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think you got it. He's sitting at tight end 3. He was now, don't get me wrong. I know last week's 45-point game was, kind of spurred him up several spots in the tight end rankings. But, he's been having a good year even before Kirk Cousins. Penix was looking for him a little bit, and I think it was a function of Darnell Mooney being out and them not really having somebody else out there. It's really been Bijan Robinson, Tyler Algier, and Kyle Pitts. Now maybe we get London back. London was having a great year till he got injured. That being said, I do like Pitts, and I think I'm very comfortable starting him the rest of the way. I am not going to be surprised, though, if he doesn't score, doesn't match his output over the next 3 games. to what he did last week.
No, but I mean, the last 3 weeks he's had 15 or more points. I would take 15 points at tight end, honestly.
Yeah.
I'd take 12 points at tight end. Meanwhile, the Cardinals lost another running back. We mentioned Trey Benson was not going to come back. Now Bam Knight went on IR, done for the year. Aside from completely avoiding it, what are you doing with this Arizona backfield?
I mean, it feels like you just got to go with Michael Carter and take his 20 carries for 69 yards and hope he gets in the end zone.
Yeah. I'm taking the Falcons.
Yeah. I guess I'm taking them too. I mean,
two enigmatic teams. It's going to be a race to see who loses first. The 8-6 Pittsburgh Steelers are the 8-6 Detroit Lions. One thing you would say about the Lions is they can score, and the Steelers defense hasn't been exceptional at stopping teams. So can the Steelers offense keep up with the Lions?
I don't think so. I think Detroit get just enough pressure, and they'll get to Aaron Rodgers with Hutchinson and Campbell and Anzalone and the other guys there along the line. If Rodgers will take some shots, he's got several tight ends he can use, and DK Metcalf. I like it to be, well, I don't know that a 10-point game or a 9-point game is what you would call close. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. This feels like, a 34-24 kind of game or 31-20 kind of game. I like the Steelers to be able to, be productive. If you're starting Jaylen Warren or Kenneth Gainwell as a low-end flex, it feels like they're pretty consistent in getting that number. One of the tight ends is going to be startable. Which one?
Good luck picking. Meanwhile, there was a lot of hemming and hawing for Jahmyr Gibbs, who only had 9.8 points last week in the first week of the playoffs. He's still averaging almost 23 points a game. You fully expect him to hit his average this week, correct?
I mean, he's going to get the opportunity. He's clearly locked in over David Montgomery. Montgomery's, the touch volume has swung pretty much, 20 touches to 8 touches kind of approach. Pittsburgh, though, is, they're bottom third in fantasy points allowed to running backs, and they're kind of middle of the pack to receptions for running backs. So Gibbs is going to have to earn it. It isn't just going to be given to him, but, the dude is good.
I am taking the Lions at home.
So am I.
Next up, the 2-12 dumpster fire from Las Vegas at the 9-5 Houston Texans. Aside from Brock Bauer, is there any Raider you'd even consider?
No. I mentioned earlier that, I could see you being in a position where you're forced to start Ashton Genty, but I'm sitting Genty in one league for Christian Watson. And, Watson's got the bruised ribs and he could take one shot and be done for the game. But I got to be honest, I'm willing to take that risk. It's wild to me that Ashton Genty is still RB16, given how bad that team has been.
When you look at the fantasy numbers, you can really tell there's been a lot of injuries and inefficiency all over every offensive team. And Justin Jefferson isn't even a top 24 receiver. And he's been fully healthy. It's not like, he was injured and he missed half this. No, dude's been out there every week and they've been like, we have other options. Do you though?
Hey, there'll be no Jalen Naylor disrespect here. No Josh Oliver disrespect.
Meanwhile, the Texans, we mentioned they activated Jawar Jordan up to the main roster, which is good because Woody Mark's still not practicing. Nick Chubb now off the injury report. What are you doing with the Texans backfield?
Trying to avoid it. It feels like Chubb is going to get the early down work. He'll have 14, 15 carries. Maybe he gets a touchdown. Dario Gumbawale led the running backs in targets and receptions last week. It feels like Jawar Jordan will be the change of pace back for both guys, but I would expect Ogumbawale to be the 4-minute back, Nick Chubb to be the early down back. So if I have to sit here quick and dirty in my head, it's probably 14 touches for Nick Chubb, 5 targets for Dario Ogumbawale, and maybe 1 or 2 carries, and maybe 6 carries and a target for Jawar Jordan.
I am taking the Texans.
Me too.
11-3 New England Patriots at the 7-7 Baltimore Ravens. Dennis, we still like Stephon Diggs, but 4 points, 5.6 points, 5.6 points. That is his fantasy output the past 3 weeks. Just feels really inconsistent. Does that give you pause in a playoff week?
So before I comment on that, I would like to say, though, I do see a scenario where Houston's up big and Jordan gets 15 touches because it's a blowout against the worst
team. And gets 100
team.
yards again.
Yeah. So, I suppose there's that. Yeah, Diggs is wide receiver 29 on the year, and he's been ice cold the last 3 games. The Ravens give up the 11th most fantasy points to wide receivers. So there is some potential there to maybe get something done. But you've got Travion Henderson delivering big plays, Ramondre Stevenson grinding it out, Hunter Henry doing short area work. Kayshon Boutte will get 1 target for 39 yards on a diving catch, and then they'll forget to throw him the ball the rest of the game. It's tough to trust Diggs, and maybe he gets a squeaky wheel game. He grumbles a little bit over the weekend here leading up to the game, so he gets a squeaky wheel game. But I don't want to have to rely on a Patriots wide receiver here in the semifinals.
Another player you may not want to rely on is Mark Andrews. He's tight end 17 on the year. We thought maybe after getting that big extension that would give him a lift, but 2.1, 8.7, 1.9, 3.8. Those are his point totals the last 4 games. I know I've benched him in a couple of leagues. Do you have any enthusiasm to put him in your lineup?
If you could see my notes on the sheet in capital letters, like Trump's speech last night, do not trust. My teleprompter is all caps. Do not trust. Yeah, this is who I mentioned earlier. I said I was going to talk about when we were talking about Jacksonville. I'm starting Brenton Strange over Mark Andrews, and in a flex position of all things, not the true tight end. He's tight end 17 on the year, but he's touchdown dependent, and he's not getting the volume that he used to get. If he was still getting 6 targets a game, you might be able to feel pretty good about it. And you could put him in that 4 for 40 with hopefully a touchdown category, but you're not even getting that kind of work consistently. So no, I am off on Mark Andrews.
Me too, but I'm still taking the Ravens.
I'm going Patriots.
Next up, Monday Night Football, the 10-4 San Francisco 49ers at the 8-6 Indianapolis Colts. Dennis, Ricky Pearsall showed some signs of life last week, a little over 15 fantasy points. Are you feeling better about him this week?
I'd feel a lot better if he was off the injury list completely. It's so hard to trust Kyle Shanahan and Ricky Pearsall. So I'm hoping I've got better options. More trustworthy options, probably. Well,
and to your point, it looks like he didn't practice, but they said he's feeling better and is probably going to play Monday. So there's that.
If you've got Pearsall, you better have a backup, is all I'm saying.
Yeah, especially since it's Monday night. And I don't know if there's another 49er I'd feel great about. I also don't know if I'd feel great about options from the Colts because Phillip Rivers has been a nice story. Wasn't exactly a robust passing offense. Not sure that the matchup with the 49ers helps that. So if you have Pittman and Downs and Pierce, they had been doing pretty well this season. I know Downs got a touchdown last week, but how are you feeling about the receivers?
So they got the receivers kind of shook out like I expected. And what I expected was Alec Pierce would draw the short straw. He's their deep threat. And let's face it, if Phillip Rivers is throwing a deep ball, it's 10 yards?
Yeah.
So there was just no faith that Pierce could get anything done. Pittman had 5 targets, Downs had 5 targets, and Pierce had 1. Well, that's what you would expect. Pittman and Downs are the short to intermediate areas. Tyler Warren, 6 targets, led the team. Well, he's the tight end, right? Amir Abdullah and Jonathan Taylor combined for 9 targets. Again, not downfield. So do I think that Rivers can improve on his 120-yard passing day? Probably.
Yeah.
I'm not stoked about having to start any of these wide receivers. And honestly, it might be, if I had to start one, I'm going to say it might be Downs.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking the 49ers.
Yeah, me too. Oh, and did you see they opened Anthony Richardson's window to return?
Yeah, because, it's kind of a shame the arc of their season. I don't know if Richardson's the answer either, but we'll see how Rivers looks here. That'll do it for us this week. That brings the preview to a end. Dennis, if people have some free time this weekend and they're not just watching nothing but college playoffs and NFL games, what can they do?
Do what we do, man. Head over to your favorite podcast platform, hit that search button, type in the Fantasy Football Roundtable podcast. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, leave us a comment.
We will see you next week as we recap Week 16. Until then, have a wonderful weekend.